everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for your interest in the University of Toronto Mississauga campus, or UTM for short. I am thrilled to be here to tell you more about what the beautiful Mississauga campus has to offer. My name is Brenda Colley. I'm a student recruitment and admissions officer here at UTM and a proud U of T alum. I am joined today by a couple of my colleagues. Here on screen, we have Felicia and Anita. I'm going to invite them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with one of our wonderful students, Anita.
Hi, like Brenda said, my name's Anita. I'm a student ambassador in the Student Recruitment and Admissions Office, but you'll hear a little bit more about me later in the presentation.
Great, thanks, Anita. We also have one of my lovely colleagues here, Felicia. You can introduce yourself too.
Hi, everyone. As Brenda said, I'm Felicia. I'm the recruitment officer at UTM, and I'm excited to be here tonight and help answer all your questions.
Great, thanks, Felicia. Okay, so we have a fun event for you this evening, or morning or afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from today. So feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. I see that people have already started doing that, which is really exciting. So I'm going to start off by giving you a little bit of a short presentation on what UTM has to offer for you and what might be a good fit for you in terms of thinking about the next steps in your academic journey. I'm then going to pass the floor over to Anita, who will be giving you a virtual tour of our beautiful campus and teaching you a little bit more about the student experience and what it's like to actually be a current student at UTM now. And then I'll pop back on the screen with Felicia and Anita so we can do a live Q&A session to address any of your questions. So speaking of questions, if you have any over the course of the presentation, please do not hesitate to share them in the chat. Felicia, as well as another wonderful colleague, Megan, will be keeping an eye on the chat throughout and make sure that they're kind of answering things as we go along. And then we also have Connor working his magic on the back end of things to make sure that everything runs smoothly for us today, tech-wise. So thank you to all of them for joining us as well. Felicia, Anita, we'll see you back on the screen in a bit. All right, so let's get started. To start today, I do want to acknowledge the land that the University of Toronto operates on. So for thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people across Turtle Island, and we're very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to work on this land. Okay, so as you may know, for those of you who are familiar with the University of Toronto already, we do actually have 3 campuses at the University of Toronto. So those are going to be the University of Toronto St. George campus. So that's sort of our downtown Toronto campus. We do also have the Scarborough campus, which is about 30 minutes to the east of that. And then we have our Mississauga campus, which is 30 minutes to the west of downtown. So what this means for you is that you have 3 separate learning environments to choose between. So all 3 of our campuses have something unique to offer, but the more important thing to remember is that all 3 of our campuses, you'll be having the same world-class education and you'll graduate with the same University of Toronto degree. So it doesn't matter which campus you're at, it's going to say University of Toronto on your degree. Okay, so why specifically would we be looking at the Mississauga campus? These are some of the things that we would like you to keep in mind sort of as we're talking today, and some of the things that might be of interest to you in terms of the stats, if any of you are interested in those types of things. Our community is home to around 15,000 undergraduate students studying across the arts, science, and business. As an applicant to UTM, you will choose, or if you've already started applying, that's great. You may have already chosen between 12 different admission categories that we have at UTM, and they can lead you into over 180 different program areas. So what this really means for you is that you have so many choices in terms of what you actually would be able to study on the Mississauga campus specifically. So the choice is yours, and it's great that we have so many different options available to our students. So why specifically might you be looking at UTM as your new home for your education going forward? We really do have a lot to offer our students. So students choose the Mississauga campus for any number of reasons. There are some that might be of interest that I'll go over that are on the screen now. So you'll have the opportunity to participate in cutting edge research with world leading faculty as early as your second year, which is a really cool opportunity. We are located in a vibrant, multicultural city right on the border of Canada's cultural and economic heart. We also like to call ourselves the natural choice. This is one of my favorite parts of the University of Toronto Mississauga specifically, is that U of T is the second most environmentally and socially sustainable university on the planet. And the Mississauga campus is surrounded by hundreds of acres of protected green space, which is really cool. You will potentially, or you should see deer on campus if you're here. I know that's exciting to a lot of students from out of sort of the city and out of our area. We do also have lots of geese, potentially less exciting, but also something to keep in mind. Lots of wildlife, and it's a really beautiful natural campus that you would be able to be a part of every day. And I know Anita is going to highlight some of that as well when she talks about her experience at UTM. We do also have an abundance of supports, which are designed really to meet you where you are and to help you exceed your own expectations. Lots of different supports available to you. Again, Anita will talk about some of the ones that she utilizes, and we're happy to answer questions about that later as well. And we're also the #1 university on the continent for research-based startups and have one of the top 5 university-managed business incubators in the world. And amongst public universities, we are ranked first in North America and 11th in the world for global alumni employability, which I know is a big piece that people are often thinking about, is sort of the next step after their education and where they might go career-wise. So that really is a wonderful aspect of the University of Toronto. And then not only that, but our student body and large network of alumni connect us directly with over 135 countries around the world. So your degree can really take you anywhere, whether you're an international student now or whether you're hoping to potentially work abroad or do graduate studies abroad. A University of Toronto degree really does take you to any of those places. There is, of course, a lot of different things that I can talk about with the University of Toronto Mississauga, but I know that you are here mainly to hear about the student experience from Anita. So I'm excited to call her back on the screen, and she'll take you through a tour of her favorite aspects of UTM and talk a little bit more about the student experience. So I will pass things over to you, Anita.
Hello, everybody. So like Brenda said, today I'll be doing a tour for all of you. I'm just going to bring up my slides and we can get started. There we go. So I'm a second-year student, like I mentioned in the beginning. I am studying psychology and sociology. I'm hoping to specialize in psychology. You'll figure out what that means when you get here, but that pretty much just means I can declare my program in third year. So I'm still getting there a little bit. So just a little bit about me, obviously a picture of me, but as well as working in the Office of Student Recruitment and Admissions, I work on residence as what's called a DON. You may know it as a residence assistant, something like that, where I pretty much work with a community of students and watch out for them, help them throughout their first year of university. That picture over there is actually my team. We watch 2 buildings. And then I just incorporated a little bit of my room. You can also see it behind me. But I love my books and my plants. Those are my 2 main hobbies at home, and my little sentimental objects. I've got like a little bottle of perfume and some other event memorabilia up there as well. So we're going to get started with the tour now that you know a little bit about me. And we're going to start off with the Knuff Center and Innovation Complex. All right. So this building houses a couple different departments and services. The first is our office, Student Recruitment and Admissions. This is a photo from the Ontario University's Fair. So if you were able to attend It's pretty much where all of us show off our wonderful institutions. My role in this office is pretty much outreach, interacting with a lot of you, answering some of your questions, and also doing the campus tours if you do come in person. They also offer a lot of help. My colleagues, who was talking before, like Brenda, help out a lot more with that admissions and recruitment kind of side of things if you have further questions. Also in this building is the Office of the Registrar, and they are helpful for a variety of services, including timetable help, academic advising, financial aid, those kinds of big ideas, but also just other events and helping you with things like program selection, like Brenda was talking about before, in an admission category, and when you're here, you pick your program. And so there's some different events for that kind of thing, as well as Ask a Student. Those are the two main ones I've engaged with, so I've put them on the screen, but there's more than that for sure. I've also mostly engaged with the online resources. I found them to be extremely helpful as you just kind of navigate your first year, or even just before your first year, for things like Ask Registrar, which is a ticketing system where you can just ask questions pretty much online, and more, as you can see on the picture over there. So connected to the Innovation Complex is the Davis Building, and we're going to head over there next. So the Davis Building is one of our biggest on campus, and so we've got lots to talk about over here. The first is the Health and Counseling Center. This is located on the first floor, I believe, of the building. And it has a variety of health professionals, including counselors, dietitians, and other like physical help. And they are just a really useful resource on campus. You can just call and make an appointment with them for anything that you need. They also run events throughout the year. So for example, Peer Supporting Peers is a program they have for mental wellness. And the other photo I have there is Indoor Skates. It's another wellness event that they host right in the beginning of the year. We actually just had it this past weekend. The second stop in here is the bookstore. It's a fan favorite. It's one of my favorite places to be, although I think every single time I go, I leave with a new hoodie. They have all the merch at U of T, but they also have anything you're going to need as a student, really. So supplies, I've gotten my whiteboard markers from there when they all run out from studying. A lot of my friends who are in some of the more like life science classes get their lab coats and goggles and of grade materials in this store as well. And one of the nice things is that you can order online and pick up in the store. As someone who lives on residence, it's super convenient to be able to do that instead of necessarily paying for shipping to my house or anything like that. But yes, that is one of the greatest features of this building, this stop. They also have textbooks as well, which you're gonna need. As we go up the stairs, if you're in the building, you'll get to the Davis Food Court. And this is one of the busiest places on campus, and rightfully so. They have, I believe, the most food like locations in this food court, although there are a couple food spots we'll talk about later in the tour. I believe in this spot, there's like Harvey's and Thai Express, and then a couple other university-specific spots as well, such as like Salad or Build Your Own Bowl. I've included some photos of our lovely staff because I think they're some of the kindest people. Some of the ones in Oscar Peterson Hall, which is the residence one, know me by name from last year, and they're always such a joy to see, and I think it really does build that community here at UTM. They also have some fresh food displays, as I've tried to show with that top right picture with the pie. They have different pies every now and then. And so it is just a nice place to visit throughout the year. Also in this building are where a couple of our campus partners are, is what we kind of call them on residence. They're essentially other departments that provide support to students, like Brenda was saying. The first big one is the Career Center. And they're really helpful in finding both on-campus and off-campus jobs that help you build your skills, get experience, and network at the university. They also help you figure out what to do with your degree after you're finished, or sometimes with things like internships even while you're doing it, but they help you navigate what that looks like. And they also help you with post-grad life, as they are accessible to UTM students for up to 2 years after you graduate. So in that little in-between time of student and entering the workforce, you do have the support still with you. The second office is the Center for Student Engagement. This photo here is actually my friend Kishmar on residence. She works there. She works with high school outreach, so similar to our office, and helps engage students that way. But their office is pretty much concerned with engaging students, as it sounds like. They run different events throughout the year, and they also have a peer mentoring program to help you adjust to first year. And then the final one I like to talk about is the International Education Center, and they are really helpful to international students as you enter. If you're brand new to the country, or if you have been here before but you live somewhere else now, they can help you with things like visas, work permits, banking information, and all that kind of thing, as they have immigration officials. But if you are a domestic student or an international student interested in it, you can do exchanges or study abroads with their office. I personally am looking right now at a 4-week study abroad in England at Oxford University for my psychology program. And I'm pretty much engaging with that office right now, actually, to make that happen. So moving on from all of this information, we're going to go over to the gym, which is still in the Davis building. So UTM has a beautiful gym. I don't have too many photos of it here, but hopefully you got a gist of it from that little video. But it is one of the nicest spaces. I actually have a friend downtown who would come to the UTM gym when they could, just because they like it that much. But there's quite a few services and actually opportunities here. The first big one is sports. So there are tri-campus sports teams that are pretty much students from all 3 campuses that come together. That photo on the top right is actually my friend Hillary. She's on the rowing team for U of T, and that's at their first competition. We also have intramurals, which are, if you don't know, it's competitive, but not necessarily for a league or that you have to try out for. So you can pretty much just join by yourself or with a group of friends you want to join a team with. There's different sports like basketball, soccer, etc., volleyball. There's a couple more. And then there's also drop-in sports. If you don't want to commit to a season, you can just drop into the gyms whenever you'd like. As for fitness, there's also quite a few things at the gym. There is obviously the traditional part of a gym with the weights and the cardio machines and all that. I found myself on the cardio machines most of the time because I could do my readings. That's actually the photo over there. I would bring my iPad and do my psych readings last year. Just because that's how I get distracted from the time going so slowly on the machine. But then it just became a super productive hour for me, and I loved doing it in this setting. Aside from this, there's also different fitness classes, such as Pilates or some like dance classes, and there are women's only hours. All of this, also I want to note, is included in your incidental fees already. So once you're a student here, it is of no extra cost to you, which is very, very nice as a student here. You don't have to worry about it pretty much after the beginning. So moving on from the Rock, we're going to go into a brand new building. It's called the CCT building. So the CCT building is short for Communication, Culture, Technology Building. You may have picked up on it already, but we do like to shorten things. You'll get used to it as a student here. I promise you pick it up quickly. I spent a lot of time in this building last year in my first year because it has the biggest lecture hall on campus with 500 seats. But other than that, there are a couple other things in this building. The first is the Mist Theater, which is an entirely multimodal studio theater, which pretty much just means like everything's on wheels, or as you can see, the colors change. There's a lot of flexibility with this space. A lot of theater and drama classes will do performances in here, but also some other classes will as well. For example, my roommate last year was in a research class, and they did a business or research funding proposal. It was up to them in this theater as well. And so they made it all look like a conference and really professional, and they got to invite someone to watch it. And so maybe if you have a really passionate 1 year, you'll get to go into the Miss Theater as well. And then the other key feature with this building is the IT service desk. So this is pretty much where you can get any tech help. So if you have issues with like a school website or something like that, they can help you troubleshoot. Also, if you have any issues with your hardware, like your laptop or your phone, they can also help you out with that. And it's where you get your T card. So you'll probably see them at least once, and your T card is your student ID. The rest of this building is computer labs and classrooms. And so you'll likely be in here at least once throughout your time here at UTM. Connected to the CCT by the pathway is our library, also called the Hazel McCallion Academic Learning Center. So as you just saw, the library is one of 44 at U of T, and it does have a lot of information in it. Trust me, I have gotten lots and lots of help from it through all of the assignments I've had so far. You can access all the material online, or if it's only in a hard copy or you just prefer it that way, you can obviously loan it out from the library. And if it's at a different location, you can have it sent to the Mississauga campus free of charge. It just takes a couple days, which is a really helpful service to have at the school. I spent a lot of my time in first year here just because it became my favorite place to study and because there were so many different areas of study. So in those first 3 pictures there are in study rooms, and those were my favorite because me and my friends would go and we could still kind of chat or play a bit of music because it wasn't a silent area. And there was the big whiteboard on the back where I liked to study. In that last picture on the right, there are some benches. So it's, again, a really nice place to study with friends. And then in the bottom, there's some pictures of the group tables in the basement and the individual study spots. So as you can see, depending on how you like to study, who you like to study with, the library has got it all for you pretty much. Some other quick things I've used at the library is the printing center. I like to print out my notes for exams, and you can do that there. And also the reference and research desk. So they're really helpful in helping you navigate what the platforms look like, especially in first year if you haven't used these same research resources before. So for example, I'm doing an assignment and I don't know how to get started with my research. You can go over there and say, hey, this is what I've got going on. And they'll help you find the keywords and that kind of thing to help you out with your first year. So the library is a very, very useful resource. I love going there. So from here, we're going to go back outside and we're going to head to the instructional center. So the instructional center is one of my favorite buildings. I think it's just got such a nice look to it. I also spend a lot of time in here. Like I said, it's got such a nice look to it. It's some of my favorite lecture halls. I've got, I think 2 pictures up there. I just think it's some of the nicest space. Also in this building is another study area with some more study rooms, and that's that picture in the top middle over there. So I found out that the space existed at the end of last year, but if the library is full, you get access to some of these other study areas as well. Another key feature about this building is the UTM shuttle bus, and this drops off and picks up right outside in the instructional center, shortened to IB. So this is a shuttle that goes straight to the St. George campus and back on a rolling basis pretty much throughout the day. It's a very helpful bus shuttle transportation if you're taking a course downtown. So you're able to do that as a UTM student with approval from your department and such. But if you are interested, or if a course is only offered downtown, you're able to get there and back. But also if you just want to use it and get downtown, hang out in downtown, living on residence, sometimes we'd want to explore a little bit more of the city. And so we take it for maybe a dinner out or to explore some of the libraries downtown. Some people use it for concerts as a free way downtown. So it is also included in your incidental fees as a UTM student. And so once you're here, you don't worry about it. Other people can use it. It's just like a per fare charge for them. Also in IB is one of my favorite things about UTM is our UTM honey. So we've got over, I think, 200,000 bees. That might be a higher number since I've last checked. Right here at UTM, as you can see a bit of the blue, they are connected to the IB building pretty much. And we harvest our own local UTM honey. I love the stuff. I know Brenda loves the stuff and everyone else at U of T. But also on that note, IB is one of the best examples of UTM sustainability here. So the building is almost entirely geothermal energy. And all the blue you see is refurbished copper as well, which is a fun fact. So from IB, we're going to head over to Montjoie and Demowenan. So I think this is my favorite building on campus. I think it's the prettiest and has some of my favorite places to study. It's slightly less busy than some of the other places. Also, it has the MN patio. MN is our short form. Right in the middle of those two kind of brown blocks is the patio, and it overlooks the rest of campus pretty much. And so especially in the fall or just on a beautiful day, it's such a nice view, and it is a sweet little spot. But this building has quite a few lecture halls. It also has active learning classrooms. So you can see that in the bottom right photo there, where each table has its own respective projector and mic. So I've had a seminar classes in one of these where you can kind of engage with your peers and other people in the class pretty easily and not get so, if presenting's not your favorite thing, you don't have to be at the front of the class. You can kind of all do it at the same time. And it's really an interesting environment to be in with your profs where all of you are speaking in a seminar style. Another key aspect of this building is that it is home to the Robert Gillespie Academic Skills Center. I know it's a long name, which is also why we shorten it, but this is a very useful center you can access in your first year, especially, but all throughout your university career. Similar to the Office of the Registrar, they have quite a few online resources, but they can pretty much just help you out with anything academic related. So they can help with writing skills, math skills, time management, taking effective lecture notes, things like that. And they also run facilitated study groups, which are pretty much study groups run by students, upper year students who took your course before. So they have an idea of the professors, the assessment types, the general content, and they are another really effective resource. So from MN, we're going to head over to Deerfield Hall. So Deerfield Hall is another one of my favorite buildings for a few key reasons. The first is that because it is home to the psychology department, a lot of the psych studies run by graduate students take place in here. So as a psychology student, sometimes you can partake in these studies for course credit, but also if you're not, you can participate for things like a gift card or a cash reward, and they are just really interesting sometimes. So if you want to be part of research, you can head over to that. They also offer, in that second photo is the Math Learning Center. So this one's drop-in. If you maybe have some last minute questions about something and you can't access anything else, you can head over here as well for any math help. And I also just love this building because I think it's one of the nicest places to study, especially in the evening when it's a little bit quieter. And that's just that photo on the right over here. So we're going to head out from Deerfield and go over to the Student Center next. So the Student Center is this building run predominantly by the Student Union, which is an elected group that represents student voices. They run a couple different events throughout the year, such as Orientation Week or Frosh Week right in the beginning. And they also have pub nights. The Blind Duck Pub is a part of this building as well. And other events throughout the year, such as a Play All Day day that happened. I said that funny. Play All Day event that happened, I believe, about a week ago. They also have a couple running things like the newspaper that goes out throughout the year. I have another friend who writes actually papers for them, so I always love going to pick them up and see what she's written this time. So from here, we're going to head over to our last stop, which is residence. So residence is one of my favorite parts about UTM overall. It is part of what made my first year so much fun for me. And so there's a couple things to mention. The first is housing. So there are a couple different types on at UTM. There's apartment style, townhouse style, shared rooms, single rooms, traditional dorm, etc. I personally lived in the apartment style. A picture of my room right now is in that bottom little section there. In my building, I love the desks. We have these massive L desks that I just adore studying with. But also, I just wanted to quickly show over here how beautiful the area is. These are all pictures from this year. Obviously, the snow is last year. But that is one nice thing about residence is that the deer roam around quite a lot if you want to see them. But then also just res life. And so I made some of my favorite memories last year. It is really fun to just kind of be with your friends all the time and see each other after class and in the evenings. All these people on the screen are friends I have to this day. Some of them were exchange students. And so we got to hang out with them for the year as well. And like I said, this year I work on residence. That bottom right picture is actually an award I won at our banquet. And so if you're in residence, you get what's called a Don, which is me. And our job is to run different events and have one-on-ones and house meetings and things throughout the year to help you and kind of meet you where you're at with transitioning to university and helping you adjust and make friends throughout the year. So that's it for our virtual tour today. I'm going to bring Brenda and Felicia back up on the screens for our Q&A.
Thank you so much, Anita. I always learn something new from hearing from our current students, and I can't wait to hear about your experience at Oxford if you do end up choosing to do that. And I can confirm that the UTM honey is fantastic. I give UTM honey to anyone and everyone for literally any occasion. But a tip is you have to make sure that you get in there quickly once it's harvested in the fall because it goes pretty quickly. It's a pretty popular little nicety of the Mississauga campus specifically. So that's great. I'm now going to have Anita and Felicia on screen with me as we answer some of your questions. I do see that the chat has been pretty active and pretty popular, which is great. I know my team is on the back end trying to very quickly get answers to you. But I'm gonna let Felicia maybe throw a question at either Anita or myself, and we will answer some of the questions that you maybe have right now.
Great, thank you. So looking at the chat, a lot of the questions, Brenda, I'm going to direct these to you, are a lot about conditional offers and when can students expect to get those if they've already submitted most of their documentation that's required.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited to hear that so many of you have already applied and submitted documents and all of that. You're nice and eager and early. That's great to see. For those of you who haven't yet, don't panic. You still have plenty of time to apply by January 15th. So if you haven't yet applied, no need to panic. But for those who are already kind of thinking, I've applied, what's coming next? How does this all work? Pretty much how it works is we're going to start reviewing students usually in the January timeframe. So our first round of offers typically in the past have gone out in February. We've done February through May with a round kind of each month. This year, exciting news, we are going to be doing a small round in January to those who have applied early enough and we've received the documents and requirements already. So we are going to give out some offers starting in January. For all of our students, they are going to be conditional offers for those high school students specifically who are applying. And what that basically means is that at the time that you are being admitted, maybe we haven't seen all of the courses that you're doing right now. So what that means is it's a conditional offer with the understanding that you are going to maintain your academic standing, and you are going to complete your courses in a similar sort of grade area as what you were admitted with. We do know that grades do fluctuate a little bit, so it doesn't mean that if you go down by a couple percent, you're going to be in an predicament or in a problem sort of area, but we do want to see that you're maintaining a certain level of academic grades. And typically we'll say you want to be maintaining around what you were admitted with, again, with a little bit of variation in there. So that's pretty much how our conditional offers work. I hope that answers that particular question.
Great. And then another one, Brenda, that kind of goes hand in hand. And Anita, I do have one for you, so I will get there. For early conditional offers, are both grade 11 and 12th grade midterm marks considered?
Yeah, so excellent question. I know people are always concerned about what we're looking at, whether you're looking at your grade 11, looking at your grade 12. Typically, because in the first round of admission, let's say in January, we really don't have a lot from grade 12 to go on. So we do rely on grade 11 sort of especially in these earlier rounds of admission. So what we'll do is we'll look at your grade 11 grades, and then we'll look at your grade 12 midterms if we have them at that point, which we likely will for quite a few students, but depending on the education system. If we do have midterms, we'll look at your grade 12 midterms that we have so far as sort of like our main focus. But we will also look at your grade 11 if, for example, you're not taking an English course until sort of your later in the year or later in grade 12. Maybe we'll look at your grade 11 English grade as that is a requirement. So we will be looking at a combination of 11 and 12. And then as the year kind of progresses and as we continue to give out offers in later rounds, we'll then start to focus on more grade 12 grades as those start to come in. And then I see also that someone was asking kind of like when can they expect it if it's saying under review. It'll typically say under review for quite some time. This year, something that's great that we're going to be doing across the University of Toronto is on your Join U of T. So that's for when people have already applied on OUAC or the Ontario University Application Centre. Once you've already done that application, you'll get access to something called Join U of T. So some of you might already have access to that, because I can tell you're seeing your status, which is great. So basically, once you have access to that, you will be able to see, as we are publishing, sort of the week that we will be giving out those offers for each of the rounds. So you will be able to see when the first round is going out and different things like that. So you will have a bit of a heads up as to when those first decisions and when each round those decisions will be going out. So you'll stay as kind of awaiting decision or under review or any of those kind of statuses until a decision is made in one of those rounds.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. For Anita, what would you say you were most nervous about when it came to transitioning to university from high school?
I think like anyone else, I was worried about my grades and what it would look like, because everyone kind of tells you university is so different to high school, and it is. It really is different, but different, not necessarily much harder or anything like that. And I think because of just the own skills that you have, so like organization, time management, and that kind of thing makes a big difference. Also using resources, like I was kind of talking about, but also loving your program. Like, I think the reason I'm doing so well is because I do really like my programs and what I do. And so it lets me really just engage with my stuff. And I think that's the answer really there is I was worried about it. I was worried about not liking it, not doing well, but using the supports and actually making decisions based on what you like, fix that for me.
Thank you. And another one for you, Anita. And I think this is probably a good opportunity for you to talk about what you're doing, which you are doing tonight. Are there job opportunities for students at UTM? So maybe talk about the different opportunities that are available for students when it comes to finding jobs at UTM.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually an overwhelming amount sometimes of how many opportunities there are on campus. Like I was saying, right now, it's what's called a work study program in recruitment and admissions. Which pretty much means it works with my schedule. So all the people in the office are lovely and work with my schedule and what I'm doing as a student, instead of maybe something off campus where there isn't that much flexibility. For example, there are many work studies available. This goes from what I'm doing in here to what my friend in Center for Student Engagement is doing, things like that. But also like research roles. Like I was talking to my professors the other day about how they have research assistants as work study positions. And so there are different like avenues over there. Aside from work study, there's also a couple other things. Like you could be a research assistant outside of a work study. You could be a TA, which is a teaching assistant in some courses where you do some of the like grading and looking at like watching tests. And of course, residence has a bunch of job opportunities as well.
So what we're hearing is that Anita likes to do a lot of things and is
Yeah.
participating in about 100 different things on campus, which is really, really great to see. So she's a great example of being able to be involved in so many different capacities across campus. And you can really find each year you can change which ones you want to do. You don't have to kind of stay in the same position. But then we also have students who love being a part of our office, who will maybe remain in our office for several years during their time at UTM. So Anita is a good example of how there's a lot to explore and a lot of different ways you can get involved work-wise, volunteer-wise, and different things on campus.
And then another question. So I'm not sure if you know this, Anita, but Brenda, maybe you do. If not, we can definitely put the link in the chat. What would you estimate the cost of dorms, and how is dorm life at UTM in general? So I figured, Anita, if you wouldn't mind talking about, living in residence.
So residence prices do have a range. Like for example, they can range from I want to say 10,000 to 15,000, something like that. You can find the specific ones on the website. This is me referencing like last year's, but they do slightly change every year. But they do range, which is really nice, depending on if finances are something you're considering when you're picking your residence. Like I was saying, there's so many different options and they do vary price-wise. And so you can factor that in when you're ranking your residences when you get here. But as for dorm life, there are events throughout the year run by residents. Like committees we have that can kind of help with that engagement. There's 3 different areas. So there's like sports, there's a sports committee, there's an EON committee, which is equity outreach, and then art. And so they try to run different types of events for different types of students. And then it's really just like its own little community. I find it's just this group of people all in the same boat. First years are all kind of put together. And so you find people very, very quickly who you have things in common with. But yeah.
Great, thank you. Another one for you, Anita. What would you say was the most difficult obstacle to overcome for you in your first year?
I think most difficult thing was actually my favorite thing, actually, is when I first got here. I loved the independence. I have lovely parents, but it's fun to be on your own for a little bit in residence. Obviously it's specific to residence, but also as a student at UTM, like you have a lot more freedom than I did in high school, at least. Just because you make your schedule, you go, nobody's checking that you're there, that kind of thing. And I loved it at first because I liked the independence. And then around the first midterm season, when the honeymoon phase is a little bit over, I found that I got really missed my home. I missed my family. I missed kind of just walking downstairs and giving my parents a hug if I was upset and that kind of thing. And so it was my favorite thing. And then it got a bit tricky. And then I learned to adjust and got new skills on how to manage when I'm upset and call my parents and do those things. And so I think wasn't, I'm answering this a bit funny. It's not necessarily an obstacle so much as something you go through and end up a little bit better on the other end.
That's such a great question, Maya, and probably something that a lot of people are wondering and thinking about as you are planning on going from high school, where maybe you're used to knowing everybody and you have, your guidance counselors and all of the same classmates and all of that type of thing. And I think what Anita touched on is coming to university in first year. Yes, it might seem a bit bigger and there's a lot more opportunity, which is fantastic in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of different ways that you can feel supported and enjoy that transition into a bigger place. But knowing that there are going to be some differences and some changes, which, as Anita said, can kind of be both exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking. But knowing that we have people on campus and you'll meet friends and you'll have lots of people to be able to lean on who are also going to be first-year students, because you don't come into this alone, right? We have a whole new batch of first-year students every year who participate in orientation and get settled together. And you have those students who you meet in first year and maybe will continue to have as friends throughout your whole time at UTM and then even beyond that. So it's really an exciting transition time.
Mm-hmm.
Sticking to the residence topic, and I think either of you could kind of take this question. So I'm going to just kind of combine two because they kind of go hand in hand. Is it possible to pick your roommate? And can that roommate be from another program, as well as are all first-year students guaranteed residence?
So as for roommate selection, to my knowledge, there isn't a way to pick one for first year. It is guaranteed as a first year. If you fill in the forms on time is a key caveat.
March 31st. Make sure you do
as
that by March 31st. Yeah.
You have to do it by that time to get the guarantee. But yes, there is a guarantee. To my knowledge, in first year, there isn't an ability to request a roommate, but you can put in criteria. Like you can put in mixed gender, female only, male only, that kind of thing. Like there's a little form you fill out. And as for program, you aren't divided by program in residence unless you choose to live in what's called an LLC, which is a living learning community. Living learning community. I'm not in one, clearly. And these are people in your program or taking a common course use. There's a biology one, a management one, a couple other ones. And so for those ones, if you select it, you're with everyone, and not everyone, people from your program, and you have additional programming and things like that. But other than that, it's pretty random.
Great, thank you. And for you, Brenda, if I applied to all three of the U of T campuses, will all conditional offers arrive at the same time, or will they be sent separately?
It's an excellent question. So great to hear that people are thinking about applying to more than one campus. We highly encourage students to do that, especially for some of our more competitive programs, just to increase your chances. And if you're maybe not sure which campus yet at this point, perhaps you're an international student and you haven't been able to visit, or you haven't learned about all three campuses yet, and you're trying to kind of get a sense of which one might be the best fit, applying to more than one to give you a little bit more time to figure out which one you might want to go to is a great idea. But in answer to your question, no, you're not necessarily going to get decisions at the same time. So the rounds are going to go out at the same time, but whether you receive an offer from the Mississauga campus in January and then maybe one from the St. George campus in February, that's possible. So we will all consider you. So all three campuses, if you've applied, all three of us will consider you for admission, but when a decision is made, is not going to be the same for all of the campuses. So you might get an offer at one point and then get a decision in the next round, for example.
Great, thank you. And then, sorry, another one for you, Brenda.
Yeah.
If I applied to one program and get accepted, but I want to change my program, am I able to switch programs?
Yeah, so typically we say that as long as the applications are still open, as in the deadline hasn't passed, you can just change your application program on the Ontario University Application Centre and choose a different program to apply to. If you have already, if the deadline has already passed, what we would typically say is wait for a decision on the program that you've applied to. And then depending on what that decision is, whether it's an admit or a refusal, then you might want to consider potentially doing an admission decision appeal, which is where you can say, I was admitted to this program, but now I would like to be considered for this one instead. Or I've been refused and now I'd like to be instead considered for this other area that I hadn't applied to. So that is something that is possible to do. What I will also mention is it really depends on the program areas that you're kind of switching between. If, for example, you applied to social sciences and now you want humanities, there's no need to change the admission category because the prerequisites are the same. It's similar sort of admission criteria. You would just pick the courses that you want from each of those different areas. Where this would come into play is, let's say you got admitted into life sciences and now you want computer science. So sort of more of those competitive programs that have different prerequisites. That's when you would probably want to make sure that before you come in, we have you set up in a program and that's or in an admission category that you actually want to be in. So that would be sort of after a decision is made if the deadline has already passed. That's when we would be able to do that. And you're welcome to contact us. That's what we're here for. We're happy to walk you through that process and whether it makes sense to do it or how that would work. So don't panic about that yet. I would say just apply to sort of what you think you're most interested in now in terms of your admission category. And don't panic too much about sort of what the actual program will be later on. This is also maybe a good time to mention that you can actually do double majors. So the way that you divide out your U of T 20 credit degree can really vary based on your interests, which is so cool about U of T, being able to kind of mix and match. So let's say you apply into life sciences as your admission category, but part of you is like, but I really like history. That's okay. Let's say you get admitted into life sciences. You can choose to do a major in biology and then also a major in history, even though it's outside of life sciences. So what I would say is the actual programs that you want to do, there is some flexibility there, but for sure contact us if you're kind of questioning what you should be doing or if you've applied to the right one and different pieces like that. And we're more than happy to go through that with you individually.
Great, thank you. Anita, this one is for you. What did you find the most effective for balancing your school, personal life as a first-year student?
This is one of my favorite questions to be asked because I'm a little bit of extreme when it comes to my organization. And so I love telling people about it. But pretty much what I did and continue to do is I time block on my Google Calendar. So if you don't know what that is, pretty much each of my tasks has like a color. So like green, yellow, whatever. And when I have something to do or something scheduled, you put it in that color on your calendar and you block off the time. And so for classes and meetings and work shifts, this is set for me. But for things like studying, I'd put that in as well. So like on Sunday, I'd look at my week and think, what assignments do I have going on this week? And what plans do I have with my friends this week? What classes do I have? Like lay out everything I have going on in my calendar in a visual way, and then plot in time to work on something and work through that. So I think, okay, I have an essay due on Sunday at 11:59, but I have plans with my friends on Friday evening, and I have classes on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, for example. And that's all in my calendar. So I know Monday and Wednesday, for example, I have a bit of time to work on that essay. And so then I can kind of see everything and figure out what I have time for, what can I do, when can I do it. And that honestly was the best way for me, is I kind of put everything on an equal playing field of, I didn't want to neglect studies to hang out with friends, but I also didn't want to neglect all other parts of life just for my studies. And so it was using that time blocking and seeing it that got me through pretty much.
I love a good organization planner or way of scheduling that. I'd have to take a look at yours, Anita, and see what it is that you have masterminded over there to see if I can utilize that as well, so we can geek out over organization another time. With that, I am thinking that at this point, I know there are a lot of other questions that are coming in, which is fantastic. I'm so excited to see so much interest and everybody very interested in admissions, which is something that I love to talk about and would probably be here all night if I could, chatting about that with all of you. However, in the interest of time, I will say now that I'm gonna see if Connor can bring up sort of our last kind of closing slide so that we can give you our contact information and make sure that you are able to communicate with us going forward. We do have a lot of different events that happen, such as this one, and we'll be doing another one of these in December. So if you want to hear from another student, I highly encourage you to sign up for that as well. But we wanted to very much thank you all for being here with us this evening. It's always so exciting at this time of year when people are applying and sort of in that process and thinking about where they want to go and considering so many different aspects of so many different universities. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to let us be able to share the University of Toronto Mississauga and why we all love this campus so much. So I am going to end sort of the questions there, and I'm going to say thank you to Anita and Connor and Felicia, as well as Megan for their assistance with the chat and for all of those pieces on the back end and making sure that we were able to run this event. Please stay connected with us. I know I am very much someone who loves chatting with prospective students and those who have applied. And I know that very much the rest of the team that you see on the screen here are also very excited to be able to have that opportunity to share a little bit more about our experience and also answer any questions that you have over the next little while. So you can actually follow us on social media. So we are at UTM Future. And then again, as I said, if you have any follow-up questions after this evening or any of our upcoming events, you can look at our UTM. If you just type in UTM events, you'll see a calendar of events that are coming up. I know I saw someone in the chat who's a transfer student potentially, so that might be a good opportunity to look at Transfer Tuesday that's going to be coming up next month, and some of our other events that are kind of tailored to specific groups of students. And we very much look forward to chatting with you all and welcoming you to UTM in the future. So again, thank you very much for being here and have a great rest of your evening, day, whatever it may be. Bye.